So hi everyone, we're back again to talk about the main capabilities of Orchestrator. What does it do? What are its functions? So as you can see, there are about seven of them, and we'll just briefly go over them. There's provisioning, deployment, configuration, queues, and monitoring, logging, and interconnectivity. That's broad functionalities. But what does provisioning mean? It means like it sets up and keeps a connection between these robots, such as this one, right? That we opened the other time, and the orchestrator itself, which is this. So the two of them are connected, of course, if you remember, through the UiPath assistant, right? So that's one thing it does. It's a big function of it. It kind of keeps them connected through the UiPath assistant. Then deployment. It makes sure that the right versions of tasks are sent to the robots, right? So what are tasks? Like, when you build a robot in Studio, as we had talked about earlier, and you publish it to Orchestrator, right? It'll end up, let me see, I had this robot, I'll open this one. It'll end up, I'm going to click on tenant, and it'll end up under packages here when you do that, right? So you'll see something like this. And then, you now tell this, the orchestrator will now assign this, shall we say, package to some robots. There's a process to it. First of all, you have to assign this package to a folder, right? In this case, finance department, you say maybe add process, and then you would choose that, and then next. But I think I already did that, right? In this case, yeah, I already did that, and we'll walk through it together next time. But just to show you, so before you can actually use a package that you have published to Orchestrator. Remember, to publish, you just need to hit that, boom, take a few steps, and that's it. Next, publish. And if you want to add release notes, you do that. Then you hit publish, right? And then it ends up, like I was saying, here under tenant packages. And when it gets here, every subsequent version you publish is going to come here and sort of sit on top of this one, right? But then it means nothing until you assign it to a folder. And the way you do that is you click on the ellipsis and then click add and click process, and then you select it from among a list of processes, which would be more if you had more than one, right? And then you go ahead and do that. So once it's in there, it becomes a job, right? In other words, mathematically speaking, a package plus a folder is equal to a process, and then you can run a process using a robot, right? So this is the way it flows, right? You publish to Orchestrator, it lands as a package, and when you get it as a package, you have to take that package and assign it to a given folder. So like now we want only the finance department to use this, so we add it here and we add it to the folder. Then from the folder, we can now decide which of the available robots and licenses are able to run that particular automation. So that's deployment, right? Now, when you have a lot of licenses, you have to choose which department, which folder, what time of the day. That's deployment. Next thing we do is configuration. What are the settings for the robot environments? We're going to go into that later in the presentation, but I'll just quickly give you a visualization of what that means. For example, if you're in tenant, you might scroll left by clicking this button. So settings might include things like, not even here. Let's go to the folder level, right? We're in finance department. So if we click on settings, might include things like, here's one way to do it. You come here and you do settings, manage folder access. So there are things like who can access this thing. You might say, there'll be a list of people in your organization that you may want to give access to. So you hit that and you say assign, right? Whatever role you want to give them, you might say automation user, folder administrator. So by doing this, you know, it will give you some notes if you did something wrong. But basically, it's saying that, are you sure that this is what you want to do? If you want to do this, then you need to give these guys these rules too. I said, okay, I can say, okay, go ahead and do that. So what have I done? I've given some more people access to this folder that maybe didn't have it before. So you can do that if you want people from other departments with special credentials to access, say, stuff in the finance department. Maybe like an automation developer or some kind of IT practitioner that's not necessarily an accountant, right? You still want him to access or her to access this folder. That's how you do it. So settings include things like that. They also include which machine is going to run the robots, right? And you have a number of machines. If you're a large organization, you have to select the one and add the machine that you want it to use, right? In this case, we've already added the machine. And again, I will walk over all of this with you later. The point I'm trying to make is what I'm trying to show you is, what does configuration mean, right? So these are some of the things that you can do with configuration. Queues, a very important part of automations, right? They sort of give you like they're called work queues for when you say them out fully, work queues, right? But what you do is typically you have a number of transactions you want to do, and a transaction is like a complete number of steps needed to finalize a given work function, right? So maybe I come into the office in the morning, I log into my software, I download an Excel sheet, I do some calculations in Excel sheets, and I send some emails to 20 different people with the results of my computations. That's a complete automation, right? So if I built such a robot, what I would do is I would pull up a queue of all the emails I need to send this report to, right? For example, and load it into what is called a work queue. Then maybe one by one, I will send those emails after I've done the task, and then the orchestrator will help me mark that successful, 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 and that's how typically an automation may look in the real world. Again, we'll have a look at some of these things just to sort of give you a visual on it. But at this point, what will happen is, like, I'm going to click on Finance Department folder, and I'm going to go to queues, and I might say, if I wanted to use a work queue to do my work, I might say something like, orders queue or something like that. I don't have a process right now, right? And then give it a description, or should I say, now this is not a real life scenario. I'm just showing you how to create a queue. You give it a description. If you need the specific schema, you have the ability to put that. That's not normal. If you have like a service level agreement, such as this thing must be done by 8 a.m. and 12 noon every day, you have to configure it here to say, okay, this process, such as logout of VCW, must be done in so time, right? And then you can also configure, like, look, if it's after this time, that's what's called the risk SLA, then there's a problem, right? So you can do a lot of things that, they are optional, but those are things that you might need in the real world, right? And then you click add to create a queue. I don't know that. This is important. How many times do you retry a queue item if it fails? It's once. There's an auto retry. If you want to say, if you check this, it means duplicate entries will not happen, right? And you can add tags, labels, those sorts of things. And you can use advanced settings. But you want to walk before you fly, right? So I'm just going to go right back to where we were, and then you say add. So this is our orders queue. I'll just say orders queue since I don't really have a real process, but just to give you a visual, right? And then every transaction I want to load, I will add it to this queue, and then the robots will pick them one by one according to, typically it's first in, first out, unless you give it other instructions, which is another kettle of fish entirely. So, just to explain that, it handles queues, and then it goes to monitoring. It watches over the robots. You have 100 robots over your huge organization. It's going to check how well each of them is doing, how many times they've run, how many times they failed, where the problems are, the speed of execution. It has that in inherent ability to do that. And a peep of it is right here actually when you look at this now. And I click on tenants and I click on, let's say, robots or monitoring, right? You see, okay, now right now I have like I've run a robot 3 times, right? But if I had a number of robots, this would be busier than this. If they were running, pending, stopping, terminating, you see all of that. You see like a graph of how things are doing. You see which machines that I have. I've got one here. How many processes are running? So if I had 100, you see 100 of them and how they are performing. The queues I have, we just made one. We have just one. It's going to tell you, okay, a certain number of transactions fail. Some certain number of transactions are in process. It just gives you like a bird's eye view of what's going on. Service level agreements. Like I said, if something needs to be done at a certain time, you need to configure it so that the robot alerts the process owner if there's any delay. Licenses you've used or not used that are available to you. Sessions, unattended sessions that have run, user sessions. You see everything from a centralized view, right? And that's one of the main. It can get very, very. That's one of the main functions of Orchestrator, because it can get very busy when you have more than one robot, such as what we have here. Then logging, it organizes records of what the robots have done. Every step of the way, depending on the level to which you set it, it can track that this is what the robot did. Interconnectivity, we talked a little bit about third-party solutions when I took you through API integrations in the last session. And if you don't remember, I'm just going to scoot back over here to the home. And I don't need to do that. I could have just gone to integration service straight. Hold on, I need to move this over. All right, let me do this. Integration service, right? And then, you could integrate, for example, on the back end with many applications are pre-configured, right? Some of the popular ones are here. And I gave the example of if I wanted it to check my Gmail and do certain functions like maybe read my email, pull down certain emails from certain people and do certain things with them, I could do it on the back end here rather than building a user interface, automation from UiPath Studio, because it will be faster because we have API integration. So you would just click Gmail and then connect it to your Gmail that you wanted to use, and then you tell the robot at the studio level that these and this and this and this are the tasks that I want you to do. So you gain some speed by doing that. So hopefully, you've got a little bit of a sense of some of the main functions of Orchestrator, and you can start to see how all those tabs and the busyness of the whole dashboard is not really anything to be intimidated about. The thing is, you've got to know where to go and what each tab does. And so I'll end this video here so that I still have your attention, and we'll see you on the next one, where we'll talk a bit more about some of the other nuances or things that are unique or different or relevant in Orchestrator. All right, thank you for watching and have a great evening. Bye.